So you're probably wondering, hey Benji, didn't you say you were going to upload this video as a two-part thing? Well, you see, Furry Valley has responded to these videos almost exactly as I expected they would. Along with both tweets I made linking to the videos on Twitter, the second half will get hit with a copyright takedown. Because of this, I now have a copyright strike on my channel. Now, I do have the option of sending a counter notification to have the video reinstated, presumably after 30 days. But the issue with that is doing so would give Simba and his staff my full legal name and address. So instead of giving personal information to someone who isn't above doxing and blackmailing people in silence, I've decided to re-upload the information in a single compiled video. While I've made edits to ensure that no form of copyright claim can take it down, no matter how petty, the information about Simba and his staff remains unchanged. They're still the same cult, attempting to censor anyone who dares share their horrid actions. While I'm sure many of my viewers have already witnessed this information, I ask that you share this with as many people as you can. Don't harass Furry Valley themselves, mind you, but simply make others aware of what they're responsible for. We don't need to rally a mob, we only need to inform those who are unaware of the horrors of Furry Valley. With that being said, let's get into the information they so feverishly want to censor.
The furry fandom has always prided itself as being an accepting community, welcoming any and all creeds to join their ranks if they found joy or interest in the hobbies of the fandom. At least that's what it was supposed to be. While we still hold that outer appearance, the fandom has just grown into too large of a blanket group that infighting among ourselves is almost inevitable. We'll fight over politics, whether smut of feral characters is zoophilia or not, or whether being against over-sexualization is the same as being against sex in general. But some groups in the fandom still portray that style of accepting any and all who want to join our ranks. Some of them in an almost eerie way. While these groups display an appearance of caring and companionship to their members, there is a handful of these groups who use this portrayal solely for the benefit of their higher-ups. A group that uses their members to handle their dirty work and dispose of them once they show any signs of resistance. There are many groups that could be coming to mind right now, but of course, you've already seen the thumbnail. Furry Valley presents itself as a super friendly, family feel, furry social community. They claim to have been on a foundation of kindness and respect for their community members. They promise hugs and smiles when you enter, a statement I cannot confirm after announcing my intent to cover the group and fucking Christ. Now, after being blocked by both the main site, as well as an admin of the group I've never interacted with, one can assume that past actions behind this group present ample reason why they should be avoided even in present day. And you would be correct. Although their name is now Furry Valley, the group had been previously known as the Furry Menagerie, but in January of 2019, the group went through an entire rebranding. This is most likely due to the tower of accusations we'll be looking into soon. A tower consisting of copious amounts of blackmail, zoophilia, and minor grooming. In this first of two videos I plan to release, we'll be covering at least two of the mentioned topics, as well as so much more additional information as to why you should avoid Furry Valley and anyone associated with them at all costs. But first, it would be wise to look into who's running the entire organization, to see if the shortcomings of Furry Valley really do start at the top. Chris Bryant, also known as Simba Lion, is the current owner of the furry guild known as Furry Valley. Before Chris was known as the head of this group, he was instead known as the self-proclaimed largest Lion King fan in the entire world. During this time, he was just a teenager role-playing as a Therian teacher that spoke 23 languages to a degree of fluency. Due to how positively the Disney film impacted his life, he referred to himself as the Lion King Guru. The movie was his inspiration in life. Having a plushie on his desk helped him ace his university finals. Hell, his nickname is even Simba. And due to how much he hated his real name, Chris, he would appreciate it if you referred to him as such. Along with this, he would also post the results he received from online quizzes to his live journal. Results which we won't use to judge Chris here, regardless of how well they would go on to foreshadow the horrors that would later transpire. As time went on, Chris would find himself becoming a member of Furry Valley's staff team on January 30th of 2013. However, he would be terminated from the position in April of the same year. His removal stemmed from his leaking of direct messages from the staff team. The thing was, the messages that Chris leaked would show Dragoneer going out of his way to protect another admin when it came to light that they were a zoophile. A zoophile who still maintained their position a whopping 9 years later. Now, exposing dog screwers in the fandom is all fine and good. It's definitely a plus on Simba's record. Unfortunately, that one virtue would soon be buried under hundreds of bad deeds. Because this act would become no more than a tactic to him, as he would face backlash during his rule of Furry Valley. If we fast forward to 2019, we would see Chris try and throw Gerald the Werewolf, a past member of Furry Valley, under the bus by sharing evidence that they were allegedly a pedophile. This occurred during the same time Simba was facing critique for a number of other issues we'll discuss later. But I wanted to mention it here as to show you that Simba will throw his own ranks under the bus to keep his own reputation from being tarnished. However, from what's been shown, it would appear to be too late for this already. I am morally required to say that for this specific anonymous testimony, I could not locate screenshots or any other evidence to correlate this, so it would be best to take this with a grain of salt. But in 2018, there would appear to be a testimony where Chris allegedly harassed an autistic minor for explicit pictures. At one point, he would even resort to swatting the child. While impersonating the landlord of the building this child resided in, Simba would report to the police that the minor was in possession of pedophilic material. But upon arrival and investigation, the police would turn up empty-handed. This would even come to the point of Simba finding the same kid's Facebook, getting pictures of them, and posting them to a message board on Reddit focused around cringe. When asked to remove the photos, Chris would choose to extort the child, getting 1,000 British pounds from them in exchange for removing the photo. However, the minor was the only one to keep their part of the deal. The pictures remained on the message board, and Chris had successfully conned a minor out of a hefty sum of currency. And that's not where it would end either, as the minor would commit hospitalizing self-harm due to harassment they received from other people while off their medication. People that were sent by Chris. Their constant back and forth of harassment is believed to have lasted for at least 7 years, starting from when the minor was 16. Out of the multiple Telegram chat groups that Chris was an admin for, one of them has surrounded a kink known as femdom. It makes sense as a partner of Simba's holds him on the pedestal as the greatest furry femdom there ever has been, and likely ever will be. Granted, they say this while Simba applies an entire slavery contract to his femdom kink engagement, but I don't fucking know. But you're probably asking, what is femdom? At first glance, it's probably looked like a misspelling of fandom, which I thought it was too, but it's actually a shortening for financial domination. This is more commonly known as being a pay pig, where one person is submissive with their finances and gives them to the dom as they demand it.
$5 a month!
In August of 2018, the mersuiter Daddy Dober was unfortunate enough to try and join the Findom group that Chris headed. Now, the prerequisite for this server was to send an image of your phallus to the owner, that being Chris. Dober, however, is transgender, and being assigned female at birth, he was unable to provide what Simba asked for. Moments afterward, Dober would find himself subjected to transphobic remarks made by another admin of the group, namely their comment referring to Slim, that being Dober. They call him disgusting for faking their gender, and that he lost credibility when his nudes showed a lack of bottom surgery. He then threatens him and another user that the issue will be escalated if they attempt to harass Simba or any of the other admins. And just in case you weren't aware that this happened in 2018, after being rightfully called transphobic for the remark, they would respond with, "Take your SJW bullshit somewhere else. You disgusting people trying to freak out gay people with gifts like that." Because of course everyone knows that showing a gay guy a vagina is pretty much the same as exposing them to the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, hell, being asexual myself, I pretty much melted into a flush puddle the moment I found out boobs were real. But yeah, Simba and his following didn't take too kindly to Dober not having a dick to parade around their chat. so naturally Dober would tweet about his experience. Doing so prompted Simba's squad of ferocious furry followers to hurl whatever shitty transphobic insult they could type in the moment. Also, Jasonifix for life, because surely their taste couldn't be any lower. Also, is now a bad time to say that furries can't insult for shit? I mean, I've seen children manage edgier word salads than this. A notable feud that will be put on Simba's record would be his disdain for the online furry news magazine, Dogpatch Press. Their first confrontation in October of 2018 would be what sparked Simba's vendetta against Patch, this being about a minor that was cited in Barafurs, an 18+ Telegram chat Simba was an admin for. When Patch approached Simba about this, his initial reaction was to pretend that he couldn't open the evidence Patch was sending to him, along with outright denying to acknowledge it when Patch offered to send it by email. In fact, he would even accuse him of defamation. And when Patch would threaten to publicize Simba's knowledge of a minor being in an adult chat room, Chris tried to bait Patch into clicking on an IP phishing link. So from Simba's behavior, it would be safe to say that the server he was a part of truly didn't care when it came to minors in adult chats, right? Well, the thing is, this was only Simba's take on the matter, because Patch would actually confront the other admin of Barafurs with this information. This admin sensibly responding and telling Patch how they didn't tolerate minors, and how these children were removed as soon as they had woken up. However, as Patch shared this information on Twitter, Simba's grudge with Patch wouldn't end there. Even as time had passed, in 2019, Simba still found it justified to retaliate against a call-out thread Patch made on him. This consisted of him sending his loyal fans after users, and making multiple alternate accounts to try and get the hashtag #DogShitPress trending. He would go so far as to search his own name on the site, randomly spamming people who were talking about the allegations aimed at him. But as expected, the tag would never truly end up trending, as people would quickly realize that some of the people using the hashtag were just Simba's many sock puppets. Now that we're aware of the kind of things that Furry Valley's owner is capable of, how does this affect the group itself? Well, Furry Valley is, with no exaggeration, a furry cult that Chris runs under the guise of an open and accepting family. Imagine the Baker family from Resident Evil, but instead of Jack taking and kidnapping a single Ethan, they're holding on to about well over 7,000 of him. This cult-like description can partially be attributed to how Simba and his staff operate the server. Inside of it, Chris has an implemented system where users are tracked and awarded XP based on not only messages sent in the server, but on external interactions as well. The entire premise is a very similar concept to that of the Chinese government's social credit system. And upon joining, whether you joined on one of Simba's IP phishing links or not, you're immediately messaged by multiple staff members and pressured in linking all your social media to your account. As mentioned before, your activity in this server is monitored by their own personal Discord bot, which applies XP for messages you send in the server, following them on external social media, retweeting and interacting with their posts, or even gambling with real money through their Patreon integration. Paying donations to the server gives you cookies, their currency which can be used to enter raffles. A user had even shared an account of the server using connected social media against users, accounting for a time when Simba tried to talk to their mom for some odd fucking reason. When it comes to the staff of Furry Valley, Chris and his handful of moderators show very relaxed attitudes when it comes to minors accessing not safe for work channels. Similar to Simba's Barafurs incident, admitted minors could be found, and still can be found, in Furry Valley's 18+ Discord channels, and now their separate 18+ server. These are the same channels where Simba talks about his interest in crush porn, or not safe for work material where a character is crushed to death for the sexual gratification of the viewer. Whether it was sharing an image of a shrunken down character being crushed to death by the wheel of a motorcycle, or explaining to users how you could rationalize sexualizing snuff material. If you happen to be someone who got hot and bothered by ISIS propaganda specifically, he wouldn't judge. Because in Chris's words, what's more dominant than having another snuff you out? It's the ultimate dom-sub committal. Mix that in with sexual violation, and suddenly you've got unwilling beheading videos being a turn-on. You could say this is me criticizing a thought crime, But I'd like to say that it's a lot like being in China. You're just living your life, not doing much, and all of a sudden you look up and there's just a giant red flag staring you down. The staff of Furry Valley have no issue openly discussing which post to attack and how to do so. As leaked posts have shown, the staff feverishly search for any negative mention of their server or the behavior of their higher-ups. Case in point, their system of sharing a tweet speaking negatively of their group and giving instructions to, quote, "Go hard on this." Many replies, "Overwhelm. Show them this isn't okay." Their cowardly efforts of mass reporting, mass replying, tied together with ass pats aplenty, is what makes this group go from pathetic to cartoonishly evil. And just in case you weren't sure of the cultish staff being above doxing, just take Finergy's experience with them for example. While giving the usual cult-like message of love over hate, they were busy updating a dox page on the user. The thing is, from the little dox they got, it basically amounted to jack shit, but at the same time, keep in mind that they did at least try to leak her private information. With an attempt there, we shouldn't have to wait and see if they'll actually get the information right one of these times. In 2019, a user would have their news leaked and posted in the Furry Valley group. What made the act malicious was Simba banning the person those news belonged to from using the group's support bot, essentially silencing them while their picture made its way past multiple pairs of unwarranted eyes. However, a trial moderator would possess the morals needed to take the nudes down. Simba, on the other hand, didn't take very kindly to this, deciding to retrieve the deleted photo and repost it, this time with a caption: "Everyone likes a good, tight bitch to pound in the morning. Rally up, boys." He would also post this to a channel in the group where he instructed members of Furry Valley to share the image wherever they could. This would discuss even the trial admin, who would leave the server moments after the image was reposted. The person who had their news leaked would decide to contact Simba directly, asking that their news be taken down. His response? A block and a ban from the groups. They would even have their friend message the Furry Valley support bot on Telegram to ask for their removal. The response? That they don't deal with requests from third parties for any reason. Followed by a ban from both the groups as well as the support bot. Also in 2019, a minor found themselves a victim of a user named Dakenbear. Daken would appear to have ties to Simba through a separate Telegram group, EHC, or Extreme Humiliation Chat. According to these messages, the minor allegedly tried to get Simba banned from a group centered around cuckolding. Why was there a minor in a cuckold group on Telegram? I couldn't tell you for the life of me, but it's the furry fandom. These issues are fucking fighting for the limelight at this point. Anyways, finding out about this, Simba would instantly join the group and try to get the minor banned instead, a plan which immediately backfired. This will lead to Simba's master choosing to blackmail the child. I say master in quotes because I'm unsure if this is actually them or just Simba with his hand up their ass. Because Simba seems to have a personal rule to never blackmail or harass users through his own accounts. It's always through an alternative account or the account of someone he's controlling through TeamViewer. TeamViewer specifically, due to an ex-member's account of Simba coaxing a person who sounded like a minor into installing the software and giving him their access code. This would essentially give him full access to a person's computer, presumably for blackmailing purposes like this very one. So because he got Simba banned, he chose to threaten the minor by emailing their parents, saying that he was engaging in online gay group orgies and sending explicit pictures to many people on the internet. This was because they hurt Simba's feelings, I guess. And as he explains here, anyone who upsets Daken's pet gets wrecked. Oh, Jesus. Wrecked in this case being an email to a minor's parents saying that they engaged in group orgies. I mean, you could have just said he was in a cuckolding group. What the fuck? Along with this threat came a command. One of them being that Simba would be unbanned from the group and given admin. He would give the minor 15 minutes to finish this, or they would send the email. The minor, however, wasn't in the position to do so. And the only thing we're left with at the end of this thread is a simple bye. No signs of if Dakin actually went through with sending the email. Blue Wolf was another minor who had fallen victim to interactions with Simba. Being 15 at the time, Blue speaks of Simba making alternate accounts on Telegram, saying that he would leak their personal information and harm their family if they were to disobey him. They would listen to him out of fear, giving them administrative privileges moments before they would ban every single member in their server just for fun. He would say a Twitter user hired him to do what he did, saying that he had a beef with them and decided to kill two birds with one stone. This is when Blue would come across the Kiwi Farms thread, containing damning information about Simba and his group. This is also when they found out that the alt account was actually Simba, still worried that he would harm her or her family. And upon making this thread, Ryuji the Fox would attack Blue, swiftly trying to discredit her by claiming it was just more drama that the minor was starting. This would prompt multiple other admins to pile on and try and discredit her, to the same song of "report this user," because all they do is cause drama. Even accounts made the exact month the ordeal occurred were getting in on things. But you might be at the very least surprised to know that these aren't even the Furry Valley admins. No, Simba just happens to be an amalgamation of sock puppet accounts, because these are other alts that Simba made to impersonate his own admins. This is the head of Furry Valley, a man so fucked in the head that he decided to impersonate his own staff team to fucking dogpile on a 15-year-old that he blackmailed. This is the head of Furry Valley, in all its pathetic and horrific glory. And with that, we conclude the first of two portions that I have planned involving the misdeeds of Furry Valley. You may notice I have yet to mention other testimonies of past members unfortunate enough to associate with the group. I mean, I have yet to even talk about the group's zoophilic accusations. While this is something I'm doing to preserve my deteriorating mental stability, I found it a worthwhile opportunity for this to be the first flare signal. To be a sign for people who have fallen victim to those running Furry Valley, to let their experiences be heard. It isn't expected by any means, but anything at all is sure to help condemn this heinous group even further. But with that being said, I would like to thank you for making it this far. The comments are fully open to any thoughts or concerns you may have concerning this gathering. Like, subscribe, all that usual YouTube crap. And I will see you again in the next video. Stay safe out there.
So, it's been a while since our first part on Furry Valley. Granted, I didn't expect to take this long, but things happen. Also, if you haven't seen the first part of this topic, I heavily recommend checking it out first so you're up to speed with what we're talking about here. But for a quick recap, Furry Valley is a furry community that has shown major signs in being a cult where its owner, Simba Lion, or Bryant, take advantage of his user base, consisting of a wide range of ages, into doing deplorable scenarios, only to later blackmail them when they show any signs of resistance. The blackmail usually revolves around a person's fetish or kinks. Along with his own incidents of transphobic behavior, he uses the community he made for revenge against people who wrong him in any way. The smaller following a person has outside of Furry Valley, the more likely he'll resort to harassing you openly on social media if you dare speak ill of their group. Although this will be behind the cowardice of sock puppet accounts, which will vary from their degrees of obviousness. And since the release of the first video, a few things have happened that I feel it will be best to discuss before we get back into our planned info dive. So, I split this information into two videos for both mental relief and to allow any viewers who have interacted with Furry Valley to share their experiences with the group. This was to allow the group the benefit of the doubt, to see if there was any users who could give a redeeming view of the place. Safe to say that's just what I got. A number of previous members have given their own testimonies regarding their time in the server, a number of which teetering away from Furry Valley's favor. The only issue is, to go through all of these in a video would be heavily time-consuming, as I would feel compelled to discuss each and every one of them. So, for the sake of brevity, I've decided to compile them all into a mega folder. The link to the folder will be in the description below for anyone who wants to see how the server is from people who have actually been in it. A question that might cross your mind is, has Simba seen the first part of this video? How did the group react to it? Did the group better themselves afterwards? Well, as of the video's release, I've counted a total of 21 staff members I know about who have blocked me since the day I released the video. And it wasn't just my main account either. They took the effort to block my main account as well as both of my personal accounts, including the one I'd made just days before the video was released. Safe to say I won't be confronted by the staff for corrections anytime soon, although they did find me a worthwhile target, at least for a week or two. So, the first half of my look into Furry Valley was uploaded to YouTube on February 8th of 2022. The video spread faster than I was anticipating, receiving messages and testimonies from users left and right, but it wasn't until 2 days later that I received something else. An email from YouTube informing me of a video of mine that it received a copyright takedown request. Scrolling to the bottom of the email will reveal that this request was sent to YouTube the same day the video was uploaded. It would also show that Simba couldn't even bother to do it himself, or maybe a little something was holding him up. Who knows, really? Instead of filing it himself, he would get one of his admins to play copyright owner to try and snuff out the video. That admin being Zavis the Kitty. You probably know what's coming next by the fact that the video is still up, but YouTube will respond to this claim the following day. We are concerned that your copyright notification may not be valid for some or all of the videos identified in your notification. Please keep in mind that in many countries, it is legal to use copyrighted works in specific ways without the owner's authorization, particularly for transformative purposes such as news reporting, parody, commentary, or review. As expected, they didn't take this line down, opting to write back again, and then again. In the second message, he gives multiple timestamps where the group's logo and their mascot Kyros pop up, in the process further proving that they are unable to refute the evidence against them, instead resorting to blocking and frivolous copyright takedowns to try and save the little face they have left. In response to their second attempt, YouTube will respond again, restating that their claim is invalid and that the video would remain live. And as if things couldn't grow any more pathetic, the following week will be met with another takedown attempt, this time being not one, but 2 privacy complaints targeting the video just hours apart from each other. The first complaint's timestamp was of me talking about the character Simba used to LARP as when he was a kid. Whether or not he really was the 14-year-old kid who gave university lectures is beyond me, but what isn't is this live journal post being publicly accessible. Or at least the archive of it is. The second complaint, on the other hand, was based on the 2 seconds I showed that Furry Valley admin Zavi was blocking me on Twitter. The same admin who tried to take advantage of YouTube's copyright system and get my video taken down. So rather than trying to refute the claims I presented by either reaching out to me or even doing it publicly, they believe they could abuse YouTube's fidgety automated systems and brush the video off as libelous statements. Allow this to be a lesson. Burying your skeletons only makes them come back stronger. It's only a matter of time before they're the ones putting you under instead. This is how Mafia works. Of the accounts that blocked me on Twitter, there would be 2 of Simba's sock puppet accounts, Cyan Nyan Cyan and Thar Yellow Dog, which was later changed to Sylvis. You can tell these 2 are sock puppets just because black and magenta appear to be missing here. Oh, also, the majority of their tweets, retweets, and replies have something to do with Furry Valley. Regardless, 2 days after I uploaded the first part, these accounts would still go out of their way to block all 3 of my known accounts, look for Twitter posts talking negatively about Furry Valley, but they wouldn't debunk the evidence I presented, no. That would take actual effort and self-reflection. Instead, we had tweets calling me a clout-chasing furry hater, a YouTuber who hates on PopUFur specifically to try and steal their spotlight, because I'm incapable of creating anything for myself. Now, I'm not one to get petty when someone attacks me personally, so I won't be doing that here. Being an antisocial college student who makes YouTube videos alongside learning different art mediums is hardly a humble brag worth noting. The part about this that rubs me the wrong way is the contradictions they make. How I'm a furry hater on YouTube and yet I supposedly use popular furries for clout in the fandom. How I harassed furry communities when I can be seen voluntarily indulging in the culture, for better or for worse. Saying the evidence I presented shouldn't be believed because of my past content, without providing said content to support your statement. I would continue, but I'd like to keep the focus off of myself if I can. as we have much more to get into concerning the cult that is Furry Valley. So let's pick up where we left off. As any would expect when you hear Discord cult, if you happen to disagree with any of the moderators or administrators, it would result in an immediate ban. Take Nolan Siren, for example, a member who simply expressed their concerns in regards to the evidence against Simba. This would get them blocked from the Furry Menageries Twitter, banned from their Discord server, and removed from their game guilds a mere 24 hours after talking about the evidence. The staff has shown that they would rather hide among their ranks and keep their members ignorant to their wrongdoings, rather than to admit to their faults and cut the sick behavior. Not that it would help much, because at this point, even the staff have their own gripes with Simba's cultist simulator from time to time, given how he even impersonates his own staff on Twitter sometimes. However, this is more malicious when you realize that his past staff have leaked documents proving that Simba runs his Discord like a cult. They shared instances where users have been blackmailed and promoted in their server, as well as having a channel dedicated to doxing users if they behave poorly on their server. The same users who are banned from the server for questioning Simba's staff, or even being associated with someone against their group. And if for some reason they use your content and you want it removed from their social media, all you have to do is essentially dox yourself through their support bot before you're even able to speak to a living moderator. Or you might just get blocked immediately, as multiple other people have accounted for. It's a coin flip of stupidity, really. Furry Valley uses its multitude of staff to handle multiple different gaming communities at once. It allows their group to spread into literally anything that could possess a furry presence. So it only makes sense that Furry Valley would have a guild in Elder Scrolls Online. Someone else who possessed a guild in this game was a user who went by Hero of None. He joins the story due to the merge that occurred between both their ESO guilds in August of 2018. The merge appeared to be beneficial to the two on paper. However, as time passed, Hero began to see the merger as a one-sided ordeal. There was no activity from the Furry Valley staff. Hero essentially found himself being the one carrying the weight of the guild post-merger, all while only receiving a meager benefit in what was supposed to be a symbiotic venture. Due to the Simba's group not pulling their own weight, Hero decided to split the merger at the end of 2018. At first, the split between groups appeared to be not that large of an issue, something that could easily be undone. Chris even acted calmly during their DMs with Hero concerning the disbandment. Unfortunately, Chris just couldn't help himself. Regardless of acting tame in private, Simba would begin to publicly accuse Hero of stealing the Furry Menageries ESO guild, and saying that he was scum that needed to be blocked. Simba would even use a sock puppet account to accuse Hero of harassing and threatening him. How can you tell it's a sock puppet? Just a lucky guess, really. During this time, a user by the name of Slaughterbird had also been harassed by Simba and another moderator for having their ties to Hero. After asking for some form of proof that Hero actually was trying to hijack the ESO guild from Furry Valley, he would simply get banned. Simba is someone who spends every possible hour of the day trying to find ways to expand Furry Valley and not much else outside of that. If his role-playing as a Therian teacher is anything to go by, I find it a tad difficult to believe that Simba actually spends time researching educational and cognitive neuroscience at a professional level, especially before going on to so blatantly use people's poor mental health to his advantage. As his own mental state presumably isn't the best, Simba finds himself gaining a number of the group's members through exploiting vulnerable individuals and getting them to join the group at their lowest points. Take the alleged first mention of mental health that the group made. It just appears to be a buzzword soup in hindsight, but to someone who is contemplating harming themselves or even worse, this might just be the thing that they needed to hear, leading to them joining the group in hopes of feeling better. Something that could have led to them being a part of Simba's buddy system. In 2019, he spoke about an upcoming buddy system where users with poor mental health or social skills would be paired with a presumed mod or active server member. With Simba's track record, this being a tactic to keep himself distanced from his members being groomed becomes a likely possibility. The proof of this system's enactment comes from the form of a minor being paired with a veteran member of the server in 2020, a 21-year-old that went by Happy the Fox. The minor claims to have received inappropriate messages from Happy. The message log I received showed the user believed to be Happy the Fox, sending the minor paragraphs of sexual texts. As far as I'm aware, Simba would ban Happy from the server, and the problem would just magically disappear. And it would appear you just can't use poor mental health for brownie points without Etika being involved somewhere. as in June 2019, Simba would use the tragedy to grandstand about how the internet was so much less aggressive 15 years ago when he became a furry. This should be obvious, but it appears even today it bears repeating. A person taking their own life is no opportunity to ramble on about how people had moderate, calm, and respectful interactions with those whose views didn't match their own. Etika taking his own life was a sobering moment where, yes, mental illness should have been put under a microscope and taken more seriously. Not the time to lament about how far left and far right aggressively attack each other. Not the time to talk about how it's preferable to live in an echo chamber. In your textbook definition, echo chamber. But again, this is coming from the same person who used a mass shooting to virtue signal. The same person who claims that mental illness couldn't possibly play a part in someone becoming a killer because it reinforces a stigma. Someone who allegedly researches educational and cognitive neuroscience. Or so they say. For this segment, we have a returning character, as there was something I forgot to bring up during their feud with Simba in the last video. Dogpatch Press. In January of 2019, Patch had shared Telegram logs from a chat he had with Shadow Wolf. Shadow Wolf being a known zoo sadist who was outed by the Telegram chat leaks that Kiro the Wolf was a part of. Shadow Wolf would contact Patch in hopes of bartering with the journalists, putting the identities of other zoo sadists on the table as an offer. In exchange for this information, he wanted Patch to leave Simba, his cat, alone. When Patch refused, Shadow would threaten them by saying that he was going to let people know who they really are, which really isn't all that damning compared to sexually torturing animals and swapping spit with a furry cult leader. To my knowledge, the worst that Patch has managed is getting winked off at a public pride event in 2015, caught on video because of course it was, allegedly getting a teacher fired for making fun of furries and comparing it to being racist, as well as being a writer on this.
In economic news, the macro furry economy has reached peak inflation, causing micro shifts in mpreg stocks, leaving average commission prices skyrocketing. Transformation from previous model to Dogecoin knotted the entire system, voring the value of myrrh and foxes.
So yeah, horridly cringe, but I mean, look at the bright side, he's not taking advantage of kids and animals, right? So back to Shadow Wolf. Along with being threatened by the dog diddler, Patch would later receive a tip that Shadow Wolf and Simba were sexually involved. Supposedly, Shadow was Simba's master, something that should be drastically worrying given what Simba has posted alongside real-life photos of animals, not even counting the posting of real-life horse dick, which grows even more concerning considering Simba has voiced the pleasure he receives from seeing small animals getting crushed, even IRL. Although Furry Valley's Twitter does have a record of following zoophiles both during this time and in more recent events, so it shouldn't be surprising that when the 2020 New Year rolled around, Simba would outright admit to being acquainted with the zoo sadists, even wanting to reconnect with them as friends. All this alongside saying that he had never given anyone a single piece of information on the animal abuser. He legitimately confesses to protecting someone so fucked in their actions and receiving so minimal repercussion for it. And on top of this, on top of all of this, Simba has admitted to being a zoophile himself, in perhaps the most stereotypically furry way one could imagine. You see, Simba was in the middle of a roleplay with his master, and during this, you have his master asking him questions about the heinous shit that he's done, to which he answers them in this very, very real interaction. I know it's hard to believe that someone would be this disgusting, but here it fucking is. Along with this evidence of Simba sending bestiality over Discord, containing stallions specifically. There's even an instance where Simba decided to blackmail another zoophile using the images that they had sent him. Something that unfortunately comes to mind whenever anyone in the Furry Valley staff mentions the word hypocrisy. As I spoke about the aftermath at the start of this video, you've seen that Furry Valley has shown no signs of facing the wrongdoings they've orchestrated. They'd rather erase any mention of their horrors so that members new and old will remain ignorant to what kinds of vile things they're preying upon them during their stay. However, it wouldn't be very honest of me to pretend that they didn't at least try to publicly address the piling horror stories of the past server members. On January 5th of 2019, Simba would post a 14-page Google document titled Evidence in Favor of Simba, Furry Menagerie, Yiflinks, Furlinks, et al. The document's purpose was to exonerate Simba and his group of any of the allegations pitted against them. Unfortunately, it throws this purpose to the side in favor of blatant cultish tactics, emotionally manipulating current members and those who may not be familiar with any of the accusations made. You can tell this due to the fact that very little evidence is presented in this document, and the evidence that is displayed is heavily cherry-picked, cropped, and censored to fit their narrative. Allow me to go through most of this document to show you what I mean. The first line reads, "You are your own best pair of eyes. Come and experience furry menagerie for yourself." So obviously I should go to their server and see how things are over there, right? Because it would be a shame if my Discord account was banned from accessing the server before I even stepped foot in it, before the first video had even released even. The introduction says everything it needs to for itself, stirring speculation by saying that these allegations can't be true because they only come from a handful of people, even insinuating that many of them could be the same person using multiple accounts. Because manipulation and projection just go hand in hand, I suppose. He tries to claim that any logs used against him were done by someone using a fake Simba account to impersonate him. Although, even though there's the chance he could have just made this account moments before taking the screenshot, he doesn't show how old the account impersonating him is. Given that the server has its own bot made, surely that piece of evidence was just a simple command away. There's also the fact that this screenshot actually just incriminates him further, because the account that he's saying he owns is the same Simba account that was rambling on justifying crush and snuff porn to his members. So it does get pretty hard to believe the rest of this when such a blatant lie gets caught out like that. They just provide so little context that you probably wouldn't have known that going into this without the entire story. That only gets accented further as we go into the pedophilia section. Here, he calls pedophilia accusations against him fake, and denounces the people that make these claims, rather than pedophilia itself, which just comes off as a bit weird. He doesn't even mention the proof of minors having access to 18 plus not safe for work channels. Never mind the fact that there's an admitted minor who's been in there since 2019, who still has access to those not safe for work chats. And not only that, but it seems that since I mentioned it in my last video, the minor is still there, but a certain message they made just seems to have mysteriously disappeared. Now, I'm not saying that you're aware of this minor having access to these adult channels, but you're sure making it hard to claim otherwise. Now, I'm going to skip over the racism section here because it's more emotional manipulation, as well as the fact that I couldn't find anything definitively marking Simba as a racist, but at the same time, you can't really fault someone for questioning it when this is the same person who uses a slave contract for people who engage in financial domination with him. But if there is some legitimacy to this racism claim, do send it my way because I've yet to come across it. Doxing, on the other hand, has plenty of testimonies concerning it. There's been evidence showing that Simba has threatened users with either doxing or reaching out to that person's family, yet they deny that Simba has doxed anyone. They say that these users showed no evidence, before proceeding to do the same thing when they say that many users have tried to dox Simba. He even tries to Uno reverse card the transphobia accusations, further emotionally manipulating by saying that it's one of the most insulting claims they've received, when, you know, pedophilia is right there. He claims that the server is pro-trans, but Daddy Dober had sent Simba real-life straight porn without warning to mess with him. You know, without any screenshots or evidence to back it up. He doesn't even mention the harassment Daddy Dober got for being trans through sock puppets and his goons. He just expects you to take his word for this. He only shows screenshots if they help the narrative, such as continuing the lie he peddled concerning harassment he received from Hero of None. But of course, because Simba blocks anyone that gets banned from Furry Valley, that means that he's innocent of any accusations concerning harassment, because of course the harassment doesn't come from his main account, only dozens of sock puppets that he operates. The sexual harassment section is where he says that Dogpatch Press blamed Simba for letting minors into the 18 plus bar for his Telegram chat in an attempt to spin a false story. Again, this lie only works if you're not familiar with what's going on. Anyone who read the initial message that Patch sent would know they were simply trying to say, hey, there's been word of minors lying to get into an adult chat, with the moderators being aware, but doing nothing. Just wanted to know if you guys knew, or were going to do anything about it. Also, they say Patch became unresponsive when pressured. What they don't show is that pressured is just referring to Simba trying to get a rise out of Patch, and sending him an IP phishing link. Because that would make Simba look bad now, wouldn't it? It would look bad if they mentioned him blatantly ignoring the evidence Patch sent. Now wouldn't it? As I'm sure you get the point, there's no point in pursuing the rest of this document and video. I will link to an archive in the description if you choose to view me doing this as bias, but I assure you that this document is the finest display of emotional manipulation that I have ever seen. The cherry on top of all of this is the inclusion of a thank you section in a document tackling crippling accusations such as pedophilia, along with shilling the server a second time. They link to perhaps the most obvious take on emotional pandering, a video where Simba talks about how he was a poor autistic kid who was beaten and abused every day, and how it's the reason he joined the furry fandom and made Furry Valley.
So to start with, I'd like to take you back to my childhood. I really don't like discussing it, as the memories are still painful and vivid today. But I grew up in a place that was filled with abuse, both physical and otherwise. There were days where we didn't have food, days that we didn't have money to get the bus home from school in the freezing rain, and days where I was afraid that I might be killed by one of the people that I lived with. I'm diagnosed with autism, so picture yourself as me in that childhood. You're a non-social, introverted kid who gets woken up in the morning to the sound of screaming. You go to school, where none of the other kids treat you with any kindness, none of the lessons are difficult or engaging enough. Then you come home, you have a brief respite before your abuser returns home, and then you're afraid, you're on edge for the rest of the evening, likely being assaulted at least once until you go to bed. And the next day you do it again.
This isn't made to punch down on an autistic kid by any means. This is me pointing out hypocrisy. Mental health is something that should be discussed and accounted for more than it currently is, which is why I'm saying here that your own traumas are not a be-all end-all excuse for abusing others later in life. Living in an abusive household is a hell no one should go through, it really is. But living through it doesn't allow you to later turn around and inflict that same feeling of mental abuse onto others.
My furry friends were there for me when I was dragged downstairs by my hair and told that I was going to be run over until I was dead. My furry friends were there for me when my kitty, my one true companion for my entire youth, from the day I was born, passed away when I was 17.
Rather than using the fandom to feel better emotionally and become a better person after this abuse, he used it to inflict his own abuse onto others he could easily take advantage of. This is what we refer to as mentally unwell. And rather than bettering yourself, you've chosen the role of a fucking coward. Of course, that's assuming any of this is true in the first place. After all, with an entire document filled with lies and half-truths, how do you expect me to believe this as well? This is the downside to creating speculation. When it backfires, how exactly are you supposed to still be held as credible? How exactly is anyone supposed to believe you after that? In the end, Simba or any of the Furry Valley staff can respond to this video if they like. Reach out to me any way you want. I'm all for being confronted about what I upload. However, when you choose to lie and bury your heinous acts, only to try and strike down anyone who allows them to resurface, don't blame the person for your credibility being in shambles. You only have yourself. Stay safe out there, viewers.